Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, we all agree the Suns have been nowhere near good enough without Kevin Durant in the lineup. 1-9 record, there's no way to defend it. The better question is why. We'll break down 4 major reasons for the lull without the MVP candidate next.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Suns. I'm Brendon, Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this Tuesday. Don't forget, Locked On Suns is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button and do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer and get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's episode, folks, is brought to you by FanDuel. Start the season with a big return to FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Joining me, as always, from the Wild West Valley, my fellow Suns credential media member. How are we feeling on this Tuesday, Ben Garcia?
I'm okay. I'm just ready for some Suns basketball that has KD. Because we're having this conversation today and we'll get into all the little tidbits that we have, but it's like, I don't really want to be doing this. I would just like Kevin Durant to be back already. But it's funny because I even mentioned yesterday that this is not the last time we will not have Kevin Durant. So it's a good thing to keep an eye on, but either way,
yeah,
I'm all right. Let's get through it.
I listened to your show, and I think you're absolutely right that a lot of this is irrelevant because when KD is back, this team is different, but I think there's also a lot of lessons to be learned that are bigger than just KD, not KD, right? So we're going to dig into some of those and try to make it more applicable beyond just these games where he's out. We're also going to preview the NBA Cup, give our quick thoughts on some of those games on Tuesday and Wednesday night coming up, because that is what is going on in the world of basketball. But let's start with my first non-KD issue, I guess is what we can call it, Ben, which is that I want to throw a theory at you, actually, because one of the friends that I went to California with this weekend, we were talking about the team. She is a big Suns fan, and she was telling me that my whole thing, and I think we've talked about this before, Ben, last year, was that it was so odd that that book made All-NBA because for the second time, because I watched all those games. I didn't necessarily feel like he had some big dominant season. But I guess I kind of came away thinking, well, if he can still do that in such an awkward year, that's actually maybe promising. But I kept coming back to he is just overthinking. And she and I were talking, and she was making the case he's actually overthinking more this year because of maybe the randomness of the style that they're playing, because now that they are healthy and they have a point guard, all 3 guys are almost maybe more duplicative, and maybe there's a little bit we can talk about there. And that actually what he maybe needs is just to see himself the same way that he maybe did when it was very clear 1A or 1B or number 2 or whatever you want to call it with Chris Paul, and the hierarchy was obvious back then, to just kind of take hold of that. I don't know if it's that simple or if it's just a mentality thing or whatever, but what do you think of that idea that actually this season in its own different but maybe more intense way, he's in his head? I'm not excusing it, but I guess I'm trying to diagnose it. Does that track with you?
Oh, yeah. I think 90% of Devin Booker's problem is it's mental. And you brought up something really good 2 or 3 days ago when I was like, I don't know, man, Booker seems like he's regressed. And you said, and I've kind of thought about it, I'm like, yeah, I guess he is kind of right. Players don't regress outside of injuries and outside of rare occasions and outside of when they get older. And so that leaves it to, it just kind of has to be mental with Devin Booker. And it's where I come back to, I don't know what it is, man. I don't know where Olympic Devin Booker went. And I've searched for this answer through a bunch of different podcast platforms because I'm curious what other people think. And everyone consensus says the same thing. I have no idea what the issue is, but they got to figure it out fast. I don't know,
Yeah.
man. I don't know if it's because Devin Booker is no longer the one on this team. That is Kevin Durant when they play these games. I don't know if he forgot what it's like to be the number one guy and the number one option on the court at all times. But here's something that you mentioned as well. And it kind of leads me into exactly what I was going to talk about next, which was it's not just him and Beal and the fact that the chemistry aspect that they haven't played enough games together. I don't know if Jones, Beal, and Booker all work together at the same time. Each guy needs the ball in their hand to be somewhat viable. Beal has shown the ability to be a very good three-point shooter when he's been given those open options to do so. Devin Booker likes to create his own shot and is one of the best shot creators when he's got it going on. And Tyus Jones likes to get guys open. It's almost like someone's got to relinquish whatever, whether again it's the bench argument that could even be Tyus Jones, like whatever. I'm not saying Tyus Jones is the bench. I'm just saying that's the argument. I don't think those three guys work together, whether it's size, which we'll get to in a little bit, whether it's offensive cohesion. That worries me about those three. I just don't know if that works. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? Because you and I were on the same page about that the number one need point guard was not going to be a cure-all, right? That wasn't the Band-Aid that was just going to make this team suddenly look very different and look a lot better. Numbers-wise, when all three of those guys are on the court together this year, the Suns have been minus 12 per 100 possessions. Awful. When any two of them are on the court, they are a lot closer to neutral or positive. So the stats back up what you're saying. And we've been talking about this all season. Tyus Jones has been great for this team. He has been productive in every way that you would have wanted him to. He has been one of the guys whose level of play has risen when KD has been out. You can't say that about everybody. And he's he's on his way to the type of payday that I think he made this career move in order to go get. But he's not really being a traditional point guard, right? Like they are still kind of trading off with all of these guys doing that role. And so I've said it all along, and it has nothing to do with Tyus, really. I think I can simultaneously tell you he's been very good relative to expectations, but also tell you that their best five players don't have him in it. That's just my stance because he's smaller and because of the types of shots he creates. They're very good. You know, he's a very solid point guard. He can shoot. He can get to that floater, but it's just going to be better if it's Booker or Beal. So that's kind of still how I feel now. If you're telling me who do I want on the court in the final 5 minutes of a playoff game or, you know, a must-win game down the stretch of the season to get seeding or a play-in game if we get there, whatever the case might be, it's probably not going to have Tyus in it. It's going to have the big three and either wings or maybe a center. And that's still how I feel. So I think you're right on the money. And yet it still just, I mean, I know we could go in circles with all of this, but it still just feels like, well, if you remove the Durant domino, if we're talking about fit, shouldn't that make everybody's job actually in a weird way a little bit easier? Because it's just, okay, those guys score, I handle the ball, that's that. A lot of those who's doing what problems, shouldn't those go away?
I don't think so because it's hard to fill the void of Kevin Durant. There's only one 6'9" wing guy that can shoot the ball as effectively and play defense. But
shouldn't your mentality get more clear if that guy's, you know what I mean? That's the part that is so strange.
I almost think it makes it more foggy. I almost think Devin Booker feels like he has to do more, so he feels like he has to do more with his possessions because Kevin Durant is out, or Tyus Jones. This is what I was also going to get to. Do you know Tyus Jones is having his best career scoring since he's been in the NBA? His scoring,
that doesn't surprise me. Yeah,
though marginally, has gone up with the Suns. It's not what they want him to be, and so he's being asked to wear different hats. Where he has done it pretty flawlessly. This is not an indictment on Tyus Jones. He has shot the ball pretty well with the Suns team, and being able to get to the basket. That patented floater is really helping. But it goes back to Beal and Booker and Tyus. Tyus, at times when Bradley Beal isn't stepping up to the plate, feels like he's got to be that second scorer. And simultaneously, like, people were upset with Beal last night, and rightfully so. He did have 5 turnovers, but he didn't shoot 8 for 12. He wasn't horrendous from the field. He wasn't taking enough shots, maybe. but I just don't think those three guys at the same time all work. So someone's got to go. And if we're going to have the bench conversation at some point, it has to be Beal if you're talking about starting, because you're not going to promise Tyus Jones a starting spot unless he willingly goes back to the bench, which doesn't make any sense. But I just think those three guys, and I understand it's more, we're trying to focus on the Beal and Booker thing, but I don't think you can without throwing Tyus Jones in there. The chemistry of those three guys, it just, something has continuously been off, and I don't know what it is. And it's a mental block that even just a players meeting could fix. And I don't know what it is, man. I also wish Kevin Durant was at these games with them, but for his health's sake, he's not doing that. I just kind of wish he was there on the sidelines, on the road, kind of coaching these guys up, giving them some sort of wisdom, or like, hey guys, tone it down, because that does help. But I mean, I get it. Guy's injured and you can't fly, but those three guys, man, they don't work very well.
All right, next let's talk a little bit more about what you were just getting us to, Ben, which is chemistry. I want to talk about size a little bit, and I want to return back to the Olympic book point you made as well, because I think that that's valuable in here when we're talking about fit and role and mentality and some of the intangible stuff like that. All coming up next. First, today's show is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to tackle the NFL action for the rest of the NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Let's check it out here. Unfortunately, the heavy favorites in the college football world are gone for us for the rest of the year. But that won't stop college basketball from providing exactly the same thing. Miami is going to Tennessee, which is the #1 seed in the country, on Tuesday night, and Tennessee is minus 3,000 favorites. Look no further. There is your answer. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet, which I'm sure you will if you go with the Volunteers. That's all at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Ben, let's keep it rolling. Reminder to everybody to sign up for the Locked On Suns daily newsletter. If you haven't already, go to LockedOnDaily.com. We also have a link right down below in the show description wherever you're finding us. Type your email address in. Get awesome analysis from our friends Katie Heindel and Mike Shearer covering the whole league. Ben and I with the Suns info you need, links to news from everywhere, and some fantasy info as well. Best of all, it supports the show. Okay. Can we start with Olympic book? Because I wanted to follow up on that. We have size and chemistry to talk about as well. Maybe this just gets us to chemistry, Ben, but can I go back to Olympic book? Okay.
I would love it, because I would love to know where the guy went. So yes.
Olympic book stayed in France where he got to play with Steph, LeBron, and KD. That's it. That's my answer. He doesn't get to play with four guys, three Hall of Famers now. He only gets to play with one. That's what happened. That's it. That's the difference.
Yeah, but I do think there is something to the elevated level of play that Booker was doing, and just a different feel, man. It felt like it just doesn't, listen, now we're getting to the emotional aspect of basketball, but it just doesn't feel like he's happy. Feels like he is anything but this season. And even at the beginning stretch of the season, when he was kind of struggling, he wasn't really reaping the benefits of the success of the Suns early on because he was struggling. I just don't know where that's gone, man, where the joy for basketball has gone from, and for him as a whole. Because in England, in Paris, it looked like he was having a ton of fun, and I just don't see that.
Yeah, that the spirit of it, I agree. I mean, duh, he looked. Of course, they were winning. That's
the defense
nice,
as well, man. It's both.
Yes, but that's the thing is, like, I'm not trying to excuse the defense should be good. The defense should be great. If we've seen it, then that's the standard he deserves to be held to. Going into last season, I said that him being a dominant two-way player was the key to this whole thing. I still believe it. If he's not going to be that, things look very different. But it's just, maybe the reality is he can't be that when he's the best guy on a team rather than the fourth or fifth best, right? I mean, because the other thing is, like, you could call it Olympic book. The point I made all summer and that I made 4 years ago when he was in the Olympics is it's also Kentucky book. That was the role he basically played at Kentucky, where come in, be more of a role player. He was not like some kind of defensive hotshot at Kentucky by any means, but people felt like he was physical. He kind of had this more natural hooper style, and he could just fill it up, or he could kind of plug in here. He could be a shooter, whatever. So I think that that's the big difference. But what's your other kind of idea to throw out as far as why it's been not just ugly, but really ugly when Katie's left the lineup?
I mean, I'll get to, I mean, I kind of want to harp on what you just said really quickly as well. It's just like, I just feel like he's lost the edge, man. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's won multiple All-NBAs. He's been awesome in the playoffs at times. I don't know if he's just fed up. I don't get it because he's playing with his best big bro in KD, who I get isn't there right now. It's the most talented team on paper that they've ever played with. I mean, listen, maybe not the best top to bottom, but like Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant are better than Cam Johnson and Chris Paul. Like,
it's the best roster he's played with. We had that conversation preseason.
That's what I'm saying.
So we got to keep it there, right? So, but here's my thing, because when we talk about this, I feel like you and I come at it from a different point, and before we knew each other, did a podcast together. I never looked at Devin Booker as a Giannis level. I'm gonna go seize the you-know-what out of this moment. Like, I'm not saying that to knock him. I'm just saying there's another cut above, and I never saw him there. So if you had asked me, hey, they're going to get KD, but injuries and it's just some weird fit things and whatever is going to make it awkward, do you think Book is the type of person that is going to just rally that situation and take it to another level and rise above that? I don't know if I would have said yes ever, right? So I guess that doesn't feel like I don't know if I can expect him to do it now. That's my thing.
Yeah, the problem is at this point, his numbers, like, it's 23 games. This is not a small sample size, Brendon, where his everything outside of free throw shooting is down, which is weird because it feels like every time I'm watching, he's missing a free throw. And he's getting to the free throw line more often. But he's shooting worse from three this year, like kind of not very good at all. He's 33%, which is not necessarily good from one of your best players, down from 36%. He's 49% down to 43% this year from field goal percentage. I don't know what it is, man. Like, I'm not saying, and I know this too, that he is the best number 2 in the NBA, or at least he was. Now maybe that's Jaylen Brown, maybe that's someone else, but yeah, he shouldn't. The only thing that would make me think, oh yeah, it makes sense, is they're hiding an injury, which I don't think is true. The fact that he has fallen this far off, and now it takes me to this next thing, right? It's not just that he's fallen this far off offensively. He's fallen off defensively. I'm not so sure how much of that game you watched last night, but it's an effort thing, man. Not getting out on Jalen Suggs, not getting out on three-point shooters, not closing out effectively, not shading guys to the sideline, fighting with referees about clear blocking fouls because he feels like he shouldn't get that call. I don't know what phase of Devin Booker's career we just walked into, but it's not something I expected at 28 years old. And it's him and Beal. Beal over the last 3 games, I know we've harped on his defense. It hasn't been very good team-to-team defense. So, but then again, it's not great matchups either with the big team and the Magic. So that throws it out of whack just a little bit. But it just feels like chemistry and on the defensive side, they're not on the same page, man.
Yeah, I guess to tie a bow on the Book thing, which of course we're not really tying a bow on because we're going to continue to talk about it, but I know it can sound like I'm forgiving it when I say that I expected it, and I'm not. Like, I keep harping on that Knicks game. I thought the body language was inexcusable in that game. I don't think I have kept hoping his leadership will get better, and maybe I was, like a dog with a bone when it comes to that, but I kind of gave up on it. So if I'm giving up on it getting better, then I got to be realistic about where it is, and where it is not the type of dude where I think he's going to be the emotional rallying player and get this whole team out of this rut. So I wish he could rise above, but I mean, like you said, number 2, I think we're just sort of realizing that whether it was Chris Paul or Kevin Durant, that is sort of the reality of what he is, and that feels just weird to say. But
because a lot of times people will say Chris Paul, but they didn't have Chris Paul last year either, and he's pretty good. He's pretty efficient.
Yeah, but
So
I don't think he was that good last year. I don't think last year was. He was efficient. Obviously, I can't argue with that. But I know I ran myself in circles around this, and where I came down is like last year the numbers were there, but I just didn't feel the level of intensity and dominance that I know he's capable of. And I would pick seasons where his stats were worse over last year, even though it's hard to poke a hole in it. And maybe that just sounds dumb, but that's where I come down. We talked
it's not.
about
I just
yeah.
want to say that stuff is not dumb, because oftentimes people will look at statistics and think that tells the full story, and that's not true. So when you point that out, it does get me to think like, hey, they got swept last year, and Anthony Edwards thoroughly outplayed him. Like, okay, maybe there is something to that where, I don't know, stats were inflated or something happened, and in the playoffs he just needs to turn that back on. I don't know, because
you
in the
want to talk
playoffs
about
last year, he's a pretty
Olympic
good defender.
I don't know if he was last year. I don't think he was a good defender last year. That's what I was just gonna say. Is I feel like you talk about the Olympic book thing, and part of why I was so like, thank God, watching those games is because it felt like, okay, he can kind of reset. He can get back to some of the basics that he was not always tight on last year, and maybe do it more, and whatever. And I mean, like, again, I think the coaching staff can kind of tell us sometimes. Last year, he wasn't getting the assignments on top players, right? He was being kind of hidden at times. And Beal was not a player any of us ever thought of being a great defender before he got here. And now he's had moments where he's looked like that, and Book has continued to be guarding, the fourth banana or whatever. So I don't know. But we got chemistry. I'll just make one point about size to echo what Ben said in the last episode. This roster's weakness is that it's small. That is extra exacerbated when the only player on the roster who has good size for their position is out. I mean, that sounds super obvious. It is super obvious, but they're already pretty much undersized 1 through 5. Maybe you feel a little differently about Nurk when he's in there, but especially without Durant, they're rolling out a bunch of small wings. And the league is, yes, small ball is what we call it, but it's really not small anymore. The league is positionless, it's versatile, it's switchable, but a lot of teams, like Orlando, for instance, have very big dudes at every position. They just can do a little bit of everything, so we call it small ball. So that was the one point I wanted to make. Okay. NBA Cup, some quick thoughts to get out of here. I will have some fun watching these games Tuesday night. My wife is working. I'm going to be locked in on, what do we got on Tuesday? The Mavs, which I'm sure people will love to root against, and Orlando, Milwaukee. Hey, root against the team that just beat the Suns. There's a little bit of incentive there as well. We'll get there. Coming up next. First, today's show brought to you by Mint Mobile. With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. But with Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. They really mean it. What do I hate about? Well, really my current thing. My current plan, Mint Mobile is absolutely throwing into my face how much regret I should have. Fortunately, my family's kind of to blame here. But sometimes I'll get a text because I'm the main number on the plan. I'll get a text that says, hey, you're about to run out of data. I don't know if they know, but data doesn't go away. It's fake. It's in the sky. It's in wires. I can't run out. It's not a battery. It's data. But Mint Mobile takes care of that. Premium wireless plans, high-speed data, unlimited talk and text. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower, above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. All right, Ben, quick thoughts on the NBA Cup to close things out here. Let's look at FanDuel. What does FanDuel have for Magic at Bucks and Mavs at Thunder. What do we got here? All right. There's a lot of action. I literally opened FanDuel, Ben, and both games had highlighted green and red, and the numbers changed in front of me. Bucks favored by 7.5 at home. Thunder favored by 4.5 at home. Do you think it's a clean sweep? We got home favorites winning both games. What do you think?
Yeah. No, at this point, I think you just have to lean towards both of the favorites. The Mavericks have had trouble this year getting some of their new guys acclimated, which I kind of harped on at the beginning of the year. However, 16 and 8 does help, but I think the Thunder are looking for a little bit of a revenge spot here. I do like the Thunder to likely win this game. And then also, I'm not rooting against the Bucks. I'm just rooting for the Magic. The Magic are fun. They're out of their 2-star players, and I think it'd just be fun to stick it to good old Adam Silver in the final, where they're being the Magic, and then potentially on the other side of the bracket, I don't know. So another team, like, I don't know, the Rockets or whatever it would be, to play each other in the finals, so that the NBA has to clear out a whole night for the Magic and the Rockets to play. So that's kind of what I'm rooting for.
They would be very glad that they got their deal before the season. And they would not want to be showing off Magic Rockets ratings, I don't think, next weekend in Vegas. But yeah, the Magic is probably a tough one, given that they now don't have Franz either, and they just said that Paolo has no timetable, so they're going to be even more depleted for the time being. But look, that also still feels like a team that could give the exact things that the Bucks are bad at a little bit of trouble, just like they did against the Suns. Unfortunately, the Bucks and Suns are a little bit similar in their roster construction in the worst ways. Thunder, do you think they care about this?
Yeah, they're young guys. Young guys care.
It's just something. It's a carrot in front of them, right? It's like we'll go win whatever you tell us to win.
Yeah, exactly. Like, especially the first 2 games. Oh yeah, because those games actually matter to record standings and tiebreakers, things like that. Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's like a bigger moment in that building, which they haven't. I guess 100%. They were in the playoffs last year, but yeah.
Yeah. It's plus it's Oklahoma. They don't get a lot of things to be excited about. Of course, they want to win the NBA Cup. Why not?
Oklahoma's move, conference-wise, didn't go so great for them. So yeah, maybe they.
Yeah, but listen, the Sooners aren't even good at this point in the season.
That's what I mean.
Who do you think the NBA is rooting for?
The Warriors and the Knicks.
Yes. Okay. That would be fun.
Which are not playing tomorrow, but they're playing Wednesday, which is where I was going to go next. The Hawks sneaking in here is like a complete.
I kind of like that one.
Wild card, and they're playing the one team I think they actually could beat, because it's the only other team who doesn't play any defense. I mean, I guess they could maybe beat the Bucks, but Hawks Knicks is actually, like, the over under right now is 236.5. I'm taking the over. I want a 135-132 game, like that Mexico City game that Atlanta played against Indiana last year that I think was in the 140s. Like, I could legitimately see that, given that New York is not exactly a juggernaut on that end of the court. And then I said all along the Rockets are a team where they're going to be this year's Pacers in this whole thing. I could see them upsetting. They're home. I could see them. It's not even an upset. They're favored right now because they're at home. Beating the Warriors. I could see them being feisty and taking out Dallas or OKC and popping out of here and saying, Jalen Green on the national stage, or, hey, that Amen Thompson kid we forgot about who no one ever knew because he played in overtime, and hey, look at him, he's pretty fun. Or Şengün, how do I pronounce that dude's name? Okay, double, that's pretty crazy. I think the Rockets will be the Pacers this year, so I'm still riding with that. But the East is just going to be a mystery because Boston's not in it.
If the Warriors were at home, I would likely take the Warriors in that game, but it just means more to a younger group of kids who want to win games that feel like it matters more. But like, this is so stupid, but it's kind of like, listen, if you want to add another thing to Steph Curry's resume, you could add in-season tournament winner. Like, it is something, right? Like, LeBron James has that, and Michael Jordan doesn't have that. And I understand.
I will say, stupid. Steph in the play-in tournament has been absurd. So, I mean, the dude, he's mild-mannered in some ways, but we know when he gets that vibe, he will go for blood. So
yeah, you mean like in the Olympics with Olympic book this year? That was insane, by the way. Sorry, go for it.
No, I just was going to say I have Rockets, and I will go Bucks. I'm going to say Rockets, Bucks. Who do you think makes the final? We're a little ahead of ourselves, but just for fun here.
Probably Thunder Knicks, which I think would still be fun. And that would be in Vegas, right? We don't have to travel to Oklahoma City for that nonsense, right?
These games are the only ones in home markets. And then
Look at that.
next weekend, the semifinal and the final are in Vegas. So the semifinal day is cool because they're back-to-back games. And it's just like pretty intense basketball.
Where do they play that game at? UNLV?
No, they play it in the
T-Mobile?
Yeah, where the Golden Knights play. Yeah, they put some wood down and play it in there.
They play in a hockey arena. Nice. I don't think there's much of a difference.
Which is weird that like they haven't started doing like the summer league final there or more Aces games there.
I was gonna say,
why don't they
just play where the Aces play? Is that not
crappy?
Oh, is it? Okay.
It's not crappy for what the Aces need, but I think the Aces will grow out of it soon. They basically sell the entire thing in season tickets. It's just not very big, so that's kind of the problem.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I wonder if it's like 10,000 seats or something like that.
It's something like that. They turn the convention center at the Mandalay Bay into a basketball arena.
What?
That's what they do for Aces games. So they just put stands up.
Wow.
They play it in there. Yeah.
No way. What?
It's a cool atmosphere. It's a cool environment actually if you go there because they have a pretty legit fan base because they've been there for a while and they've been great every year.
Good.
But
they're also paying people under the table allegedly.
You know. Cheaters win. What can I say?
If
Matt Ishbia wants to go ahead and give somebody a little something, I'm not going to tell him no.
I'm not going to say anything either. I will not say anything either. But yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, I'll take the Knicks and the Oklahoma City Thunder.
All
game
right,
should
I got
be fun.
Rockets.
I'm really excited for this game and the semifinal. The final, it doesn't mean anything. So once they make it mean something, I'll be hyped for it, which is kind of frustrating because a Thunder Knicks matchup would be a bunch of fun. SGA versus Jalen Brunson, you could actually talk yourself into that being a finals matchup, but we'll see.
Yeah. Definitely an opportunity for somebody to kind of, and last year was Anthony Davis, which we already knew what he could do. He had a ring, but somebody can kind of say, hey, I'm here. And I think that's kind of the fun of this whole thing. That'll wrap us up for the day, though, guys. Don't forget to sign up for the Locked On Suns daily newsletter at lockedondaily.com. Supports the show in a big way. We would really appreciate that. But, of course, the best way to benefit from all the content we put out is to hit follow, hit subscribe, and get that content straight to your feed. Become an everydayer. 3 more days to go, guys, before a game. But that means 3 days for people to heal. So look at the bright side. Enjoy your Tuesday. We'll talk to you next time.